People tryna say I'm only in the meeting. Got a code with my dogs, can't get in between. I can give them life, no more energy. Amen. Amen.
What is up, everybody? I know you guys missed us yesterday, but we weren't going to go back-to-back primetime days without giving you guys a parlay. Thursday, we got absolutely screwed. We were fishing for a boost. We added an extra leg we shouldn't have, and that ended up being the leg that cost us with the under 48.5. It was insane juice, too. It was so upsetting. But today, we got the Packers and Saints. Probably one of the worst games of the weekend. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but doesn't mean we can't make some money. So we'll break everything down for you guys, give you a parlay at the end. Welcome in, everybody. JJ, how are we doing, brother?
This game is absolutely going to be ass, but it's the type of game where you just got to check the box scores. You can't be wasting your time. Time is precious in life. You can't be wasting on a game like this.
Thankfully, we have NBA today. So
Yes.
Anybody who doesn't want to watch this, it's not like there's not anything to watch. But
Yeah,
hey,
give them a ratings boost.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, for those who want to watch it, that's what we're here for. And we can just get things started. Saints side, no Derek Carr, no Alvin Kamara, no Chris Olave, no Rashid Shaheed. They're going to be trotting out dudes on the field that a lot of people have probably never heard of. So we can just start there. Kendrick Miller is finally getting some respect, though, and it looks like him and Jamal Williams will be running a split backfield. Jake Hayner was benched after, one game, and we're going back to Spencer Rattler. And who knows who he's throwing to at this point. I've lost track. Packers on the other side, their run defense is kind of back and forth. Like some advanced metrics you'd look at and you'd be like, oh, they look like they're really good. And then if you ignore those and look at some other ones, like this run defense is absolutely horrible. So I've kind of just stopped trying to predict them. And on top of that, the Saints are probably going to be losing. So I don't want to be betting on their run game. As far as the pass game, they're running a lot of too high. We don't have many stats on how the quarterbacks or the respective receivers do against too high. We know that it leaves the middle of the field open. So traditionally, we think slot receivers and tight ends. But I mean, JJ, is there anything more specific to go over? Is it really just that cut and dry on the Saints side?
It's really that cut and dry. They're just bringing in players as much as they can because there's all these injuries. So it's hard to tell who's going to be consistently putting up what numbers. And then you're getting quarterback changes. Like it's really hard to predict here.
Yeah. So if I like to bet on things that I can predict, I don't think there's much predictive on that side. If you're very tuned in with like beat reporters and listen to every New Orleans radio show and stuff like that, maybe you have something that you're seeing, but even that, you're trying to read a lot, or even those people are trying to read a lot between the lines. They're trying to predict things that we don't have much proof of. So there might be some edges there, but even then, it's still very wishy-washy. So I think the best thing to do is focus on the Packers side in this game. And it looks like everybody's healthy. So, JJ, what are you seeing on that side?
A whole lot of Josh Jacobs probably. You know, Saints run defense is something that a lot of teams have been trying to go at pretty much all season.
Not good.
And, you know, Josh Jacobs has been on the roll the last, 6-7 weeks now. He should just be getting the ball a lot. Yeah. But I think like the last 5 weeks, he's like really taking off as far as like his stats. Yeah. They just kept trying to feed him the ball. You know, he thought, going into a Thursday night game a few weeks ago, it was like, oh, yeah, they got to lower his load a little bit, right? They said, no, we're going to keep feeding him at least 30 carries. But since we're starting to wind down the season, playoff seeding is starting to form there. It looks like they're starting to reduce – at least they want to reduce his carries a little bit here, just keep him fresh for the playoffs. So that's the only reason why we're kind of like staying away from his yards. But, I mean, if you trust his production and thinking he's probably still going to get maybe 20 carries here, I mean, go ahead and take his yards by all means. Yeah, it's just one of those games where with a 14 spread, probably going to get the backups in, you know, probably by start of the fourth quarter type of thing. So it's just really a gamble there.
Oh, and you could take longest rush attempt if you want to, but just so you guys know where we're coming from with this mindset of he might not get the full workload. Matt LaFleur in the middle of the week, he said these two things. The first one, he said we have to be mindful of Josh Jacobs' workload. He does a great job communicating with us in terms of where he's at. He's been pretty healthy. So that kind of gives you the sense is, okay, they're not limiting him, but they are aware that they don't want to abuse him. And then later on in that same press conference, he said, if we do get to the point where our playoff position is locked, then reducing Jacobs' workload is a conversation. And their playoff position isn't necessarily locked. But again, if they're up by 2-3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter in this one, the game itself is pretty much locked. And they're probably going to want to keep him healthier for the next week, which is a short week, if I'm not mistaken, because they'll probably play on Sunday. I haven't checked the schedule for next week yet. Yeah, they play Sunday in a divisional game against Minnesota. They're definitely going to want him as healthy and fresh as possible for that one. So if I'd expect a normal first half for him, we'll see where the third quarter's at in terms of where the game itself is at. And then I think that's going to decide. Like his second half is where its usage is going to be a little bit more limited, assuming the Saints don't surprise us. As far as the pass game, though, JJ, I know you had some notes there.
Yeah, so I went through the receivers. We talked. Me and you talked over it before the show. We were thinking deep ball, right? Originally, because they give up a lot of yards per reception deep. So we thought Christian Watson, right? So we look at single high, two high, and obviously Saints, they play a lot of two high as well the last 6 weeks or so. But he's not really been the guy against two high. Only 18% targets per route run, 2.8 or 2.86 yards per route run is good, but only 6.6% first read share. Then you look at since week 9, he has 15% target per route run, 3.1 yards per route run, which is fantastic, but only 2.4% first read share. He's not getting targeted. So next guy we would go to, Tucker Kraft. Now, Tucker Kraft, he has been the man. Let me pull it up real quick. Nothing crazy, but he has been pretty good. 22% targets per route run, 1.74 yards per route run, and 22% first read share. Now, the thing that stuck out to me was against cover 2, because both defenses are top 3 in cover 2 since week 9. And as soon as this loads, I will tell you, because his stats are ridiculous. Since week 9, 35% targets per route run, 2.35 yards per route run, and 33% first read share. So he has just been absolutely the man against cover 2. I think tight ends are a weakness, right? I think he's found some data on that.
Yep, they allow the 7th most pass attempts to tight ends in the NFL. And looking since week 9, they're allowing the 6th most yards per reception to players coming out of the inline position, which more often than not is going to be the tight ends. Some tight ends switch around between the slot and being in line with the offensive line. With Jaden Reed there, he occupies the slot enough where Tucker Kraft just stays with the line. So that's going to be him more often than not. Piggybacking on you talking about his strengths against cover 2, he's played 5 teams this season that rank in the top half of cover 2 in terms of the percentage of times they play it. Those teams, he got 34 last game, 26 the game before. That was against Seattle and San Francisco, who, if I'm not mistaken, are pretty solid against tight ends in general. Seattle's a little bit more average. San Francisco is really good. But the 3 weeks before that, 78 yards, 88 yards, and 53 yards. So cover 2 is very much his friend. And on top of that, just reading the lines a little bit, the books have him juiced like minus 180 for 3 receptions. This season with 3 receptions, he has 33 or more receiving yards in every single game this season. And then a couple games with way more. So 41, 78, 78, 88, and 53. And then he has 2 games against Detroit and Houston, who are both one of the more elite tight end defenses, where he had 34 and 33 yards. I say these numbers specifically because his betting line is 33.5. So you're telling me that In every game except one where he finished on the hook, he went over with 3 receptions. That volume is just too good. FTN has him projected 43.81 yards. That 10-yard discrepancy is not something to take lightly. So Tucker Kraft, it's outside of just a blowout that takes him out of the game early, it's just blaring red sirens to bet on him today.
Definitely. But I think it's parlay time.
Yep, it's parlay time. So the first one we're going with is the under 43.5. You guys haven't seen us take game totals on these shows very often. We've definitely leaned more into spreads and money lines, but the spread is 14, which I kind of favor the Saints a little bit. It's a very big spread for a team that's more than likely looking ahead to a must-win divisional game next week on a short week. But then on the other side, you can't take the Packers money line at plus 1,200. We're not throwing that in the parlay, which, by the way, 99% of the money on the money lines this game is on the Packers. So there's more than likely going to be a little bit of value on the Saints money line. But we took the under in this game because since 2017 in Monday Night Football's past week 14, the under is 25-8. And on top of that, matchup-wise, the Saints' red zone defense is pretty solid, but the Packers' red zone defense is kind of bad. The reason why that works in our favor is the Saints' offense isn't going to look good, so they're not going to get in many scoring positions anyways. And the Packers are going to be more than likely the one driving the field. So if the good offense is going to be more limited and the bad defense is also going to be more limited, the under is just kind of there staring at you in the face. So the under 43.5 is the first leg. The next leg, we've spoke highly of him enough. Tucker Kraft over 34.5 receiving yards. I mean, it's a perfect matchup. I can't cover 2. Books know he's going to get 3 receptions, and he's been money on this line with 3 receptions. We can go on and on about that. And the last leg, the most obvious play that you could probably make today for a touchdown score, and I hate that we're putting him in, but it just makes too much sense. Josh Jacobs to get a touchdown. The Saints are one of the highest rated defense in terms of percentage of touchdowns allowed as rushing touchdowns. And if you're betting on anybody else to get a rushing touchdown on the Packers other than Josh Jacobs, call the number. I'm sorry. It shouldn't be happening. Unless you're banking on a fourth quarter garbage time touchdown from a backup, it's not happening. It's going to be Josh Jacobs. So those are the 3 legs. We got a plus 550 before the boost. And then with the boost, it's 30% boost. It maxes out at half a unit. We got it up to plus 715. Surprisingly, one of the better payouts we've gotten for some of these primetime parlays. So we're excited to see it cash. And we've been money on these. We've been up like crazy the last 2 months. Why not keep it going? Appreciate you guys as always. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. JJ, good to see you. Let's make some money tonight.